quarterback situations. Washington selected Ohio State's Dwayne Haskins with the 15th pick in this year's draft and threw him right into a competition with veterans Case Keenum and Colt McCoy for their starting quarterback job. So far, so good for Haskins, whose head coach says he definitely has a shot to win that job. Just last night, Jay Gruden told our John Keim of Haskins, quote, "He's put enough out there on tape to say he deserves a shot without a doubt. I don't know quite what he can do in the NFL in this system because it's new to him, but his ability warrants the fact that, hey, let's take a peek at this big son of a," and then he trailed off. We don't know what he said after that, because we are a family network. What do you guys think about the idea of Haskins starting the season as Washington's quarterback?
Well, you know, I've been on record as saying I hope and that my ideal situation for him would be to sit and learn from Case Keenum for a little while, really just see how the game ebbs and flows, see how Kevin O'Connell really calls a game from a first-time offensive play caller perspective, and just kind of slowly integrate himself into it. And then if it, you know, comes to a situation where they want to put him in there because the team isn't winning or because of injury, or they just feel as though from a mental standpoint he's ready to go, then put him in there. But don't rush him. Just let it happen organically. As a matter of fact, kind of force him to kind of sit for a little while. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. It sounds like the more and more you start to see his physical ability be much better than the other people they have on the roster, that entices coaches to want to put those guys out there, because there's no way that he's ahead of these guys from a mental perspective, but athletically and physically. Look, there's a reason why Dwayne was considered one of the top quarterbacks in this draft.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that Jay and those guys are getting excited watching him in the OTAs, watching him in practice, but I think, you know, you want to resist that in terms of getting some time to let him develop more, Lou.
Yeah, there's no question. And look, here are some of the things that he really wanted to work on first and foremost when I talked to him pre-draft, which was throwing on the move and being more accurate. It was probably the #1 thing that people knocked him for. And you saw a bad play against Penn State, a better play here against Maryland, but it was still just up and down. Now, at his pro day on March 20th there at Ohio State, which I was in attendance, he choreographed many throws, particularly rolling to his left and launching the ball down the field, and he hit them all. I mean, he looked spectacular. I think this was the moment in the workout where I personally was like, oh, Dwayne, I love you. And you know what? And everyone else was saying, hey, no. Hey, Pat, we've already talked. We know we're straight.
Your relationship.
But no, that's when he really, to me, I think, started to grab people's attention. Like, #1, he kind of understands. He has a lot of awareness as to what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are. He wanted to address them. He wanted to address them as much as he could without actually playing football games. And I think he did that. Cerebrally, look, this kid is fantastically sharp. He's into it. He's working hard on his physical conditioning. He's saying all the right things. He's going to be there this summer. It's going to be hard for Washington to keep him off the field, because I personally think that this offense is going to lack some, you know, it's going to lack spark. It's going to lack big playability, and they're going to need that from him.
And what kind of boxes does a guy like this have to check to get from right now where he's in a quarterback competition to at the end of training camp, okay, he's our week 1 guy? What do they need to see from him?
Manage Von Miller coming at you, Khalil Mack and those guys, because anyone not dressed in a Redskins uniform is definitely going to be a lot harder. And so really it's not just being excited in, you know, practices in terms of the arm strength, you know, and how he's, you know, managing the offense in practice, but it's also managing the adversity that you're inevitably going to face in the season. And the thing is, if you start off with Dwayne Haskins, then where do you go if you start off 0-3 or 0-4? There's not that lift to kind of lift up the team. So I think, you know, I would rather see a situation, not as long as like what happened to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and not necessarily what you saw in 2012 with Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin, but have him just wait a little bit, get the offense to come to him, and so that they can also manage the season and him properly.
And I think they, you know, from talking to those guys, look, they're aware of that. They really are trying to force themselves to slow down with this situation. In many ways, similar to how Andy Reid had to force himself, despite how well Alex Smith was playing in Patrick Mahomes' first year. They were seeing things from day one that were like, man, how do you sit on something like this when you know it's special? And they're going to try and they're going to force themselves. But and another situation to watch is here. You're talking about these pass rushers, managing these pass rushers. They better manage, you know, Trent Williams' contract situation.
No kidding.
Because without him, those pass rushers, my man's got no shot.
Took how many minutes for Lewis to get to Mahomes in today's show?
Hey,
we weren't even talking.
We're going to weave him in this entire show. Okay?